Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're consuming this broadcast. Welcome to Ionisms, a podcast about society, art, entertainment, culture, movies, pets, cricket, and of course, a little bit of geopolitics. And as you would have guessed it, today is an episode on geopolitics. Given the recent India Pakistan instability and tensions, I just wanted to have a share a few thoughts on where we stand right now. And there are where we stand right now is based on what we know as regular people. So there's a beautiful saying, we don't know what we don't know, right? So whatever is publicly available, consumable information, a lot of it is basis that. So when I look at social media, let's take one bucket at a time. It appears to be that Pakistan is winning that narrative. The driving the social media appears. There has been some commentary which has gone in our favor, and there have been some gaffes that their defense minister has made and all that. But by and large, if you were to do if there was a hypothetical balance sheet, it seems to me that the narratives that they're trying to drive in social media, I think they're taking social media discourse or dissemination of information or misinformation little more seriously than what we do. You could say that we are displaying a sign of maturity, a sign of taking the higher ground, and keep a you know talk less, do more kind of approach. But my problem with that is we live in a social media world. It's a new reality. It's not a new reality. It's been a reality ever since, say, at least in India since 2015, where it's entered mainstream consciousness across the length and breadth of the country, cuts across all classes and masses. And so it's important to drive home the narrative, which I thought people from Pakistan did a better job globally uh, on various news channels trying to propagate the message that it's India who is at fault and not them, and they are the victims and all. It's like a classic mirroring strategy in sales, right? There is a tactic where you mirror the customer sentiment. If they are, for example, speaking fast, you speak fast. If they speak slow, you speak slow. Why? Because then the probability of relatability that the customer thinks, oh, this person is one of my own, psychological thing, is higher, and therefore the barriers of objections are lower, and so the possibility of you cracking the deal is higher, right? So it's like whatever India is saying, that Pakistan is almost doing cut, copy, paste, control C, control V. And so people not in the know are like, okay, so person A or country A is saying this and country B is saying this. So who cancels each other out? And so whoever has got a larger narrative, voice, tonality, reach will be accepted as a broader truth than even if the other country is correct and not being as vocal. Um, that might die down, and it might have paint a counter picture. Right? And that's to, I know, like I said, that you don't know what you don't know. And we as regular people are often like mushrooms, kept in the dark and fed with BS. And so we'll only come to know later the larger things. So keeping that aside, the social media narrative for India needs to be little more stronger, little more clearer, little more forceful, not just emanating out of India, but also emanating globally, and mirroring the global verbiage, if you will, the how they present the information and data. It also We also have a bunch of uber liberals. Now, I have no problems with someone being in disagreement with what is going on. If they have a contrary opinion, that's fine. However, there is a time, forum, platform to do it. When your country is under attack, when your country is fighting a battle, it's probably not the right time to bring out your difference of opinion online to a third party agency. And some of the commentary that I heard from so-called scholars and big uh, individuals, very prominent individuals. And I respect that they have a contrarian view to how the country is being run, by who it is being run, by what party it is being run. I get that. You're entitled to that opinion. But somewhere this vocabulary of expression has to be under the national interest, right? The national interest has to take precedence, and then everything else follows. And there is a time for that. Of course, if you are unhappy with any governance issues, any even strategic issues or political issues, being a democracy, functioning democracy, an imperfect but still functioning democracy, you have a right to question. It's fine, but choose the time. Let the country's interest come first, because of the global misinformation campaign that's being dished out from the opposite party. So you're not countering that, you're fueling that in the name of, oh, I'm liberal, so I will question everything. So somewhere I thought we missed rebalancing that narrative globally with global news channels. There were some gaps here and there, which some of the global media caught uh, the whim of, or got the whiff of, but not too much. Then let's talk. So this was all social media. Let's talk about television. Everything, it became like a circus, right? The amount of TRP generations, rhetoric and jingoism and hypernationalism. It became so nonsensical. It became so rhetorical. I think instead of serving the purpose, it kind of disservices the whole situation, right? Not just the mainstream English language news channels, but also the vernaculars. Everything is read and breaking news and hyper and manufactured and conjectured news, and then they try to uh, tone it down later on and stuff like that. I'm like, that's a sign of immature media, very, very immature media. Like, you want to do a TRP game when, on regular scheme of things, I'm not a big fan of that, but fair if that's what floats your boat. When there is a national emergency, when there is a national situation going on, that is the last time that you want to do these kind of nonsense and rhetorics. And yes, you could argue that people on the other side is doing exactly the same. And that's the question that we all need to ask: is do we need to be compared in parallel, or do we need to delineate ourselves? So a lot of us will agree. And again, as a disclaimer, this is not a sponsored video. I'm not affiliated to any political party or have any political associations or affiliations. I speak as a regular, normal, whatever, limited aware, uh, regular citizen of the country. That the I think towards 2010, 2011, we were kind of leaving Pakistan behind in global consciousness as well. The hyphenation was separated, and we were kind of moving ahead so far that I think the narrative was settling that you are not important. As in India was saying that Pakistan, you're not important anymore. And so we are somewhere that thing got reset. And with the latest tweet by some of the topmost political figures, you realize that it has completely been reset and we are back to equal. So I think that's a socio social social strategy victory for Pakistan, where they managed to reduce the distance, if not wipe it out completely, and again hyphenate India and Pakistan. Whereas what we were trying to do is say, look, we are the bigger power, better economy, doing much better in life, and so I don't even want to talk to you. That distance, that gap has minimized, and we are back to status quo ante, like back to square one. Is that good? Right? Clearly that's not good, right? And so somewhere, if you take social media, if you take the news channels, if you think of all this messaging that is going around, we have not done much. Okay? Then the third thing, is about the questions that remain unanswered. And I'm sure there will be a time and space for these questions to be asked and answers to be given by the authorities. One would be what happened to the perpetrators of the attack, Pahalgam attack. Is it so you had such great intelligence that you could go deep into the bases of Pakistan, but you had no intelligence to find these four people? They couldn't have been buried themselves under the ground. They must have motorbiked their way back, perfectly detectable, or they're hiding still in the woods, still detectable, uh, given shelter by Pakistan Army, still detectable. So why is it that they have not been made public? And, you make a public statement like we avenged and now matter rests. That has not been done. So it kind of, this ceasefire leaves these kind of questions unanswered. So that's one. The second is, of course, that now that you know that there was a Dawood Ibrahim or Hafiz Saeed or some of these guys where they're located, wasn't this the most opportune moment to make a statement there and say, look, here is what we did? And so now that also would have been considered a great victory, right? The third is, the fourth is about the people to people narrative, where are we agreeing that in the future the same status quo ante will return? Like, take cricket, for example. Will we now then play with Pakistan in ICC events? And if not, how will that work out? Are we going to forfeit matches continually for the foreseeable future? Is that a smart way to deal with the situation? What about all the stuff that was going via Dubai to Pakistan, be it medical, be it any of the vegetables or anything? Will that continue? And last but not the least, of course, the fact that we have said that another terror attack will equal an act of war. Well, then what you have agreed to is then you will have to again provide evidence. Oh, look, undeniable evidence. And what are the odds? And your guess is as good as mine that if you do provide that evidence, then they are going to accept it, just like they did for 2008 or 2016 or 2019. They didn't, isn't it? So, what is the guarantee that whatever evidence that you so provide will be accepted and then you will treat it as an act of war and then take action? Clearly, that's not going to happen. And what is the threshold for that? Like, even if one person is killed as a lone wolf attack, or is it going to be a full-fledged another big event? I don't know. So it worries me. It worries me that we don't have answers to these, or clarity. Like, I think somewhere somebody has to give this thought clarity instead of rousing rhetorics, and just calm down and say, here are the five things that will happen or have changed. And then here is why it matters. And so, where do we go from here? What's next? I think number one is to introspect. Are we strong enough? Are we really that good? Are there areas of improvement? Have we been surprised by some of the resistance put up? Are there chinks in our armory? Are there any areas that we need to plug should this happen again? I think a thorough diagnostics and inspection should happen. We should also monitor what our adversaries are doing in greater detail. I'm sure this is happening, but in greater detail, thinking if one country is backing another. I think the time to be sitting on the fence is over. And I think somewhere geopolitically, one will need to rethink its strategy of being friends with everybody and come, jump into the ring. I don't know how smart this idea is, but it appears to me, or it occurs to me, that this I'm going to be friends with everybody is somewhat somewhat not as strong. Otherwise, if that were the case, then lot many more people would have come and supported us and made that much more noise. And that might still have happened. Like I said, we don't know what we don't know. But there would have been that many more people visible that would have said, Pakistan, stop, we support India. Given that that has not come out in public domain, I would think that India would need to revisit the strategy of being friends with everybody and somewhere take a stance on what part do you want to play in global geopolitics. Next, we will also have to be very decisive about what we want to reclaim as an objective for Kashmir. Do we want to let it be the way as it is? Then one will have to rethink what else do we need to do? Do we continue? Will it be a test of resilience, test of patience? Done this for 70, 80 years. Do we want to do it for another 70, 80 years? Is that a strategy? Or do we need to take a global consciousness route and make a decision? Or do you want to take an offense route? I think those repurposing of the geopolitical strategy is now. We also need to see who are the new players internally. We've been hearing the same names for a very long time in the Indian global geopolitics arena. I think more players need to emerge in that theater, which kind of take the baton from the previous generation and will now be part of this conversation, independent of government changes or party changes for the next foreseeable 15, 20 years, if not more. These are some of the basic steps we need to take for us to rebalance, rethink, make the country strong again, and 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 also figure out how we want to present ourselves globally. How do we want to assert ourselves globally without, you know, again ratcheting up any big and to be fair, a lot of it is media created, given it's not that the government is doing anything of that sort, to be fair. But somewhere, like I said, in the age of over communication, it becomes a perception becomes a reality, right? If you do not respond, that is a response. If you overreact, that also triggers a perception and becomes a reality. So how do we balance that? I think you need people to advise you on that a little more seriously than you ever did before. And then, last but not the least, internal differences while representing the country outside cannot ever take precedence or paramount, be of more important importance than that of a national interest. So, the few things that come to my mind. I'm sure there is a laundry list and long list of that. I'll leave you with those things to think about. As always, please remember again, I have no political affiliations or associations. I just share this as a concerned citizen who's impacted, who's affected, who's thinking, what the future of the country is. And so I hope you take it in the right spirit. And if you like this kind of no frills, slow burn, straight talk, simple conversations, consider subscribing to Ionisms and share with similar people. Till we meet the next time, stay well, stay safe. Keep listening to Ionisms. This is your host, Ian, wishing you a peaceful and healthy and safe week ahead. Yes.